Today on All Out Brick, we're going to be taking a look at the Bionicle Rahkshi. We're going to build them, review them, and then give out a score. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Christian from All Out Brick. Welcome to another Mata Nui Monday. As always, the best way to tag along with us every week is to subscribe and turn on notifications. This week, we're going to be building the Rahkshi, which were released in 2003 during the Bionicle line. The Rahkshi were the Makuta's response to the defeat of his Rahkshi. The Rahkshi were an artificial species that was created when a Kurata was exposed to energized protodermis. The Rahkshi were not truly alive, but they were rather suits of armor that were worn and controlled by another Kurata. Taking a look at the packaging, each of the container with the Rahkshi inside shows an image of the Rahkshi in a power stance, each of them a little bit different from across the board, and there's a glowing background, and the color matches the color of the Rahkshi that's inside. The bottom of the container, which is really the top because it opens up, is also matching the color of the Rahkshi inside. There's some nice images of the Makuta mask on the left side and the Takanuva mask on the right side, kind of advertising Bionicle Mask of Light. On the back of the box, there's a ton more text than we're used to seeing on Bionicle packaging. This is really just like saying where the components are made. It's nothing with like the lore of the Rahkshi. I kind of wish it was. And then there's two images. One of them is showing where the Kurata goes inside of the Rahkshi, and then the other one is like the Rahkshi standing up and showing that the canister can fit over top of it once it's fully built. Inside, we receive a bundle of pieces along with the instructions and a small little comic book. Some of the Rahkshi even contained a mini CD-ROM that just had some promotional animations for the Mask of Light. The Rahkshi contain both base model builds along with combination model builds. Let's go ahead and get started with the base builds. Build time in total was 21 minutes. Honestly, this was a little bit faster than I thought it was going to be. I figured it was going to be like 25 minutes. I think it's like 270 pieces. So great, we got them done faster than I expected. First impressions on these guys is they absolutely live up to the hype of being the Makuta's most feared henchmen that the Toa would come to face. They're noticeably taller than a Toa Mata stands, and the most notable thing about these guys is the fact that they can pose basically any way you want them to. The Rahkshi include knees for the first time. I know a lot of you guys were commenting on other videos like, I can't wait for the Rahkshi, they have like freaking knees. Like, yeah, they do, and they are fantastic because they're such a simple little hinge, but you can display them in such different ways now. Like, you can pose them and crouch down more easily, or you can stand them up and you can turn them out to the side. There's just a lot more that can be done that maybe initially you didn't think you would want knees for, but upon seeing the knees, these are 100% the best posable design like that we've seen Bionicle produce this far like into the theme. Another new thing that's present in the Rahkshi models are the eyepieces. This time around, we've had for the first time this transparent neon orange piece that shines through and even glows in the dark through the head molds. The head molds are just one of the brand new molds that are included in the Rahkshi sets, and I have to say I really like the different molds that they produced for these sets. It's clear that they didn't try to like use older pieces and see what they could get done with those. No, they really put in the work and designed all brand new assets and pieces for these sets. This extends from like the leg pieces. Obviously the feet pieces are brand new molds and there's a ton of detail in there. The head pieces, the spine pieces, and there's all throughout the model. There's like a chest piece with the shoulders that's brand new. And so I applaud the designers for saying, you know what? Let's not use what we already have. Let's make some brand new pieces, some brand new material, and produce something that people have never seen before. When you look at these models, I mean, you can't help but feel like they're pretty menacing. I mean, the height is like a pretty good factor into that because like they're noticeably taller than a Toa, yes, but they just look menacing. Like they totally make me buy into the fact that, yeah, the Toa are not going to have an easy time with this. Whereas like if you looked at like a single Borak, you'd be like, yeah, it's cool. Its head flies forward and everything, but no, the Toa is going to wipe that like without breaking a sweat. This, on the other hand, no. They look like they could take the Toa one-on-one, and I'm guessing, like, I don't know if it's supposed to come off that way, of like each of the Rahkshi would like kind of be able to take down the corresponding Toa, that like the elemental powers. I'm not sure if that's a thing or not, but I honestly feel like that's how it's presented. Yes, any one of these Rahkshi could take down any one of the Toa. Another thing that I want to mention about their looks is that when you look at them at first from like a far away, they look identical, almost like the Bohrok and the Bohrok Call do. But I can assure you, like when you come in closer, the different molds are not even like close to being the same, and they really differ from model to model. This is only limited, of course, to like, aside from the color, it's limited to the spines are different, and then the ends on each of the staffs are different, and each of the staffs are different. But the thing is, none of the molds look incredibly similar. They're all very unique, and especially with the spines, there's no like repeated details in there. They're all just so different from each other that it stands out to me as something that they were like, yes, we know we're building the same thing, which I wish they kind of shook it up there a little bit. Unfortunately, they didn't, but at least they went far enough to make sure that the different silver molds especially were very different from Rahkshi to Rahkshi. The Rahkshi certainly include a lot of like brand new stuff and things I really liked, but they do have flaws, don't get me wrong. Number one, and the biggest flaw that I feel like should not have even happened for these sets, this is a big one, is the staffs are stuck between the two Rahkshi hands, and you can't like break it apart and make it look like the Rahkshi is holding it in one hand. I have no idea how this happened. Why couldn't they have made it kind of like the Koli sticks are attached to the Matoran, or used like another Technic axle just to make it snap into the hands? Like, it's such a drawback to me that you can't display them like holding up the staff with one hand, like pumping it in the air, almost like a Tusken Raider, I guess. Connected to this fact is the play function. It's like kind of like and most of the Toa functions we've seen, you know, you twist something on the back and the arm swing back and forth, but it's quite limited. It can only go like, I think maximum 45 degrees, maybe 60 degrees in each direction. Really can't move a whole lot. They're kind of like stuck at like their mid torso, and they can't really swing their arms back and forth. And because the staff is stuck between those two hands, this also affects the range of motion on their arms. They really can't move their shoulders a whole lot without kind of getting stuck or like maybe popping out. So that's a definite flaw that just can't be fixed because of the way these models are built. Like, the only solution I would have is to take that black axle out from between the hands, but then you don't even have a staff anymore. So what the heck are we doing? That's not what the Rahkshi carry. The Rahkshi carry staffs. I don't know why they allowed this flaw to happen, but I don't think it's defensible. The only other major thing that bothers me about these sets is, well, one of the pieces, it almost looks like Mega Blocks, and it's the feet. I know, they're new molds, and they're good molds. There's lots of detail in there. I like the molds, but they have this like faded plastic look to them, and this like thin, cheap plastic look to them that really reminds me of Mega Blocks. And I know, anyone who's built Legos has found Mega Blocks in their Lego bin. They suck. And to see these in the feet, it's like, ooh, it looks a little cheap. Looks a little cheap, especially because the ankle is the same color as like what the foot's supposed to be. It matches the rest of the Rahkshi. So when you see that ankle joint contrasted with that like faded color of the foot, yeah, what went on there? Is it just that the mold was so detailed that they had to print it a different way? I'm guessing this is what happened. Or I guess they weren't even 3D printing back then. They were just using molds. I guess the way that the mold was detailed, it had to be structurally different and a slightly different material. But it really gives off Mega Bloks vibes. I didn't notice it for like a while, but as soon as I noticed it, yeah, I can't unsee the fact that they got Mega Bloks feet. The Rahkshi do contain combination models called the Rahkshi Kaita, and these do appear in the Bionicle lore. I forget what number comic it is, but they do show up like right after the events of Bionicle, the Mask of Light. The Toa Nuva are kind of traveling around the island, and they bump into Rahkshi Kaita that give them like a scare and say some like kind of menacing things. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly which one it is, but they do show up, and the Toa Nuva obviously win because, yeah. But we're gonna go ahead, break these base models down, and then we'll go ahead build the Rahkshi Kaita. So let's get started with it. After 23 minutes, I now have the Rahkshi Kaita. First thing I want to say about them is they are pretty cool. You know, they're very different models from one another. I think this is essential to Kaita models now. Originally, when we saw those first Kaita models of the Bionicle line, they were basically the same thing with like very slight differences. And now it looks like we're consistently getting Kaita models that are completely different from one another. I think Lego must have realized in the early 2000s, like, okay, we probably should like switch it up because who wants to build like the same thing twice, especially when it's something larger like that and it's like supposed to be combination models. I think it also brings a little more life to Mata Nui. We're seeing like 2 different creatures that they can combine into, even though they're composed of the same pieces. I'm a big fan of that. Another new thing that these Rahkshi Kaita bring to the table are their color combinations. Normally when we get Kaita models, they're green, blue, and white, and then red, brown, and black. These change the game. The first model that I'm going to talk about is the brown, blue, and black one. This is a very interesting Rahkshi Kaita. It's like there's a mini Rahkshi on top of this large animal made of Rahkshi parts. It, like, saying what it is sounds kind of funny, but it looks really cool. And it's got like this wide stance. It totally looks like something the Toa Nuva would walk up to and be like, yeah, nah, we're pretty much toast if we're by ourselves here. And then the other Rahkshi Kaita model kind of reminds me of like Christmas. It's green, red, and white. And I don't really know how to describe this. There's 3 Rahkshi heads and then arms and legs. It looks very interesting. And then there's like one little hatch where the Krato would be inside. The only thing with this one, and really for both of them, I was a bit disappointed by the amount of playability that they contained. The first one, this brown, blue, and black one, there's really nothing you can do with the gear functions. It's supposed to like wobble the legs back and forth like it's walking, but it's just too big of a model to do this. There's too much weight, and it doesn't work. It's kind of just like stuck sitting static, and then the mini Rahkshi's stuck tilting to one side because the gears can't really hold enough friction to keep it upright straight. And then this other green, red, and white one, there's no gear functions at all. I mean, there's like the ball joints for the arms and the legs, but that's it. There's no striking. So that kind of puzzled me as to why they didn't figure out how to like make a little bit of movement worked into it. So across the board for them, not a lot of playability. That's really unfortunate because they do look pretty cool. They're definitely bigger than I thought they were going to be too. Looking at the pictures, they felt like they were going to be meh, like a little bit bigger than a standard Rahkshi, but that's not the case. They feel a lot bigger now that they're built. They're by no means the biggest like Kaita model we've seen. I mean, like the Toa Kaita, they would be way bigger than these, especially the original ones. But that being said, these are still pretty big, and they surprised me. I thought they were going to be smaller. I like the size of them. The only other issue I really feel with these models is on the brown, blue, and black one, there's a tail in the back, and it just doesn't stay still. It just kind of flops around because it's not connected. Like when you look at the original like base Rahkshi legs, the way they're connected like keeps those little like knee joint caps like right in place. They don't use the axle pins in the combination model, and therefore the connections just kind of flop around. The tail doesn't stay up at all. Like, I think they just ran out of pieces. I'm pretty sure that's what happened here, but I feel like they should have found a way to have this not happen because it essentially makes the tail useless. Overall, I really enjoyed the Rahkshi. They brought these completely new elements with the posability. First of all, knees, yes, knees, and the head articulation was there, something that if you've watched these videos, I am very not afraid to complain about when models don't contain the head articulation. These did, so gotta hand it to them. And it's just nice to see that they're realizing where they can improve and that they're not afraid to take jumps with the molds and create these very interesting details. So I think the Rahkshi, they're pretty close to like being high up there. However, the limitations with things such as like the arm mobility and like the gear function not really going that far, I can't give them this incredibly high score. In terms of price, you know, what we're going to find here is really cheap. Like, I was shocked when I saw the prices for them. Used, the Rahkshi are going to cost around $7 each, and brand new, they're going to cost around $45 each, but this really fluctuates down to like $30 and up to $50 depending on which Rahkshi you're getting. I'm not sure if like Mask of Light has anything to do with which ones are more popular than the others or not, or maybe it's like the Krata inside, but those are the prices for it. So they're not incredibly expensive. So if you want them, yeah, jump on them, go get them. As for a score, I really wanted to give the Rahkshi something super high, like in the 9 range, but there was just a couple flaws that kept it from getting that. 9 is a very prestigious score around here. We just don't just like hand out 9s. You got to earn that thing. So I'm going to give the Rahkshi an 8.6. If you're thinking about these sets or you're wondering like, hey, which Bionicle set should I get? Or you're trying to start to get into Bionicle, Rahkshi are definitely something I would recommend and put it like the top of that list. They're the baddest henchmen that our Toa have faced so far. They live up to that hype, and the only thing above them is the Makuta, so they're pretty much like the biggest of the bad besides Makuta himself. So 8-6, that's your review. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to be the first to see all of our future content. Also, be sure to check us out on our website and on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Until next time, stay bricking.